Do you know how many times you got arrested?
I've only had a few cases stick, but it's hard to say what I'm doing wasn't better than what was there.
Yeah.
I know it's illegal, and I'm totally cool. If you arrest me, arrest me. I was like screaming, and the helicopters are coming, and I started running. I'm like, go get him, he's down there. And the cop's like, I'm not going down there, he shot you. And I had a friend in my crew, Saber from MSK, and he fell off a billboard or something and impaled himself on a fence.
Wow.
And he had to pull himself off of the fence.
That's crazy.
And people ask, why do we do it? We do it because, I do it because it's kind of like, I don't know any other way. It's my life.
What's up, guys? I'm Leticia Bufoni. As a professional skateboarder and a racing driver, I'm used to taking risks. In this new podcast and video series, I'm meeting people from around the world who shares the same mindset. I'm going to find out what drives them and look deeper into the relationship between performance and pressure. This is the Team Ignition Show. Hey guys, I'm Leticia Bufoni, and my guest today for the Team Ignition Show is Risk. Thanks for having us here.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Cool.
This place is amazing.
Thank you. It's a labor of love. I'm Risk. I'm a graffiti artist. I did like the cover of Hot Rod magazine and all this high profile stuff, from Playboy to Budweiser to MTV to Coca-Cola, all this stuff. When you do graffiti, it's this feeling that can't be explained until you do graffiti. The smell of it, the feel of it, the grittiness of it, the glamour of it. It's a disease. It's a beautiful disease.
How did you get into graffiti?
So I got into graffiti in like 1983 in high school. I was like a bad kid. And I used to ditch school and surf all the time. And when I came to school, I'd just draw on my desk, draw waves, write surf. And this kid from New York came and he goes, what do you write? I'm like, I don't write, I draw pictures. And he's like, what do you write? I'm like, I don't write, I draw pictures. He kept saying it. I thought he was like dumb. I was like, dude, I draw pictures, I don't write. And he goes, oh, the subculture graffiti is called writing, and that's a tag, and this is what we do. And he showed me these pictures of New York subway trains. And I was like, that's cool. So that day I went out and I stole some spray paint, and I came back to school. I waited for it to get dark.
You stole from where?
Some hardware store, stole some spray paint. And he told me, he's like, you got to go steal, like, we call it racking. You got to go rack some spray paint, and then you got to come at night and do all this stuff. So I was like, all right, cool, I'm going to come do it on my school. So I waited and I did this piece on my school, and it was terrible. Like, nothing like what he had showed me. Like, he had all these things with arrows and clouds, and mine was just terrible. But the next day, there's tons of kids looking at it. They're like, that's cool. I'm like, that's cool. And they're like, yeah, and I liked all that.
So nobody knew you did it?
Nobody knew it was me, but I was just like tripping because everyone like liked it. And it was so bad. I was like, wow. But I was like really like hooked already. I was going to come back and get better. So I came back every night after that. And so I got good.
To the same place, your school?
Yeah, different walls.
So you painted the whole wall, the whole school?
Oh, I broke into the school. Like when the security got so heavy around the school, I was like, all right, I got it. So I broke in the school. So while they were patrolling the school outside, I was inside painting. And I painted the lockers. I called them locker rockers because they couldn't buff the lockers because they're metal. So they're like, it took them a while to buff the lockers. And then I used to go in the girls' bathroom, write, you love Risk and stuff from the window.
And nobody knew your name was Risk. Your nickname.
Well, this was on surf, and then I got caught. And then I wrote Risk. And then they couldn't catch me after that because I knew they were looking. So I hid everything. But when I was surf, I didn't know. I was new. So I was writing surf everywhere. It was in my books. It was on me. And then they're like, you're surf. You're going to jail. And I was like, oh, okay. And then after that, I was real careful. And yeah, I started writing. And I had, lookouts, and we'd whistle. And it's like cat and mouse. And I killed my high school. I destroyed it.
Oh my God. How long it took you to do the whole school?
Well, they paint over it. So every night I'd do it. And the next day kids would come to school and see it. And then
like a new thing.
They'd paint over it. And I'd come back next, night. And I wouldn't hit it every night, but I'd hit like something in the neighborhood, something nearby, just start, but the school was like a target, like I was as much as possible.
Was you doing by yourself, or you had more friends doing it with you?
I had all my friends doing it with me. They would just come with me to hang out and just, get in trouble, stuff like that. But they'd look out for me. A couple of them started doing graffiti with me, but most of them were just lookouts.
What about your nickname? How did you get the nickname?
Which one, Risk?
Yeah.
So my friend wrote Chance, and I thought that was a super cool name. And it's like taking chances on that. And now I don't think it's that cool. And like I think Risk is great, but I didn't like Risk at the time. But the IROC Z came out, the Camaro IROC Z, and I wrote IROC. I love that car.
Yep.
And then it went to ISROC, RISROC, and all these versions of that because I like the letters. And I was sitting in his room one day, and I looked up and he had the board game Risk. I was like, oh, that's cool. I said, Risk Rock, Risk. And I started writing Risk. But Risk was too kind of, I don't know, it wasn't hip hop enough for me. So I wrote Risky.
Risky.
So it was Risky for years. I was Risky. And then as I grew up, I changed it to Risco, Risker, Mr. Risk.
And now it's just Risk.
Risk. A lot of people call it Risk Rock. It came like full circle.
Is that because you guys take a lot of risk when you guys doing something like that?
Yeah, I used to say the letters stand for Rocking It Street Kid or Rocking It Street King or all these different things, But yeah.
There's like a lot of versions of it.
Yeah, over the years, now it's just Risk. When I was doing graffiti in the 80s, in the early 80s, there was no graffiti around, right? So there was only gang graffiti in Los Angeles. So when we're out painting in someone's neighborhood and we're not from that neighborhood, they just assume we're from another gang. So they would shoot at us, because gangs shoot each other.
Yep.
And so that was a real big threat to us back in the day. But when I got shot, it had nothing to do with that, really. It was some guy looking for some guy that went over his work. And I was with that guy. And he said, Risk, just tell me where the guy is. And I couldn't rat on him. So I was like, yeah. And he's like, man, I don't want to shoot you. I really look up to you, this, that, and this, that. And the guy was right there. I was waiting for him to grab the gun because there was a wall and he was right there. I was waiting for him to grab the gun and pull it down. And he didn't do it. And I was like, just sitting there. I go, oh, here we go. And I started backing up and I started running like, I saw way too many movies. I started running like a zigzag and he was shooting at me. And then I got so far away. It's like a football field away. And I was like, he's not trying to shoot me because he started so close.
Yeah.
And he shot and it hit the wall like right by my head. And I was like, holy shit. And I pulled myself over the wall. And when I jumped the wall, he shot me in the leg. And then I ran and I was like screaming and the helicopters were coming and I started running. Usually we run away from the light. And I started running toward the light.
So the helicopter can see you?
Yeah. And I didn't know I was shot. Like, it wasn't a big deal. It was like a perfect hole right here. And the cop had a flashlight on me and in my eyes and I couldn't see. And he's like, we need a paramedic. He's been shot. I'm like, I've been shot. He's shooting at me. He goes, no. And he put the flashlight and you can see it. And he's like, you've been shot. And I'm like, oh, shit. I'm like, go get him. He's down there. And the cop's like, I'm not going down there. He shot you. And I was like,
shot
oh,
me.
shit. So, yeah, that happened. And then I met the guy who shot me years later. And
how do you knew it was him?
Because we had this beef for years. Like we wanted
so you knew him already.
I found out who he was, and we wanted to kill each other. So it was this big beef, and we had mutual friends, and they put us together in Las Vegas when we were both really drunk. They threw us in a limo, and we're like all partying, having a good time. He goes, they're like, all right, by the way, guys, you guys are separated. They introduced us, and we're like, what? But long story short, we got over it, became friends. And I was like, man, you're a real bad shot. And he goes, you're lucky I didn't have my glasses. So, yeah.
That's a cool story. There is a lot of risk in graffiti that people don't really get it. Like, I didn't know all this until, we talked yesterday. But it's not only that. You can go to jail. You can get hurt.
Yeah.
And get shot.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. I mean, I had a friend in my crew, Saber from MSK, and he fell off a billboard or something and impaled himself on a fence.
Wow.
And he had to pull himself off of the fence. The fence was stuck through him.
That's crazy.
To get to the hospital. And, there's just all kinds of stuff. You're painting on stuff that's rotten and old and dilapidated and falls apart. You're walking on these abandoned buildings and the roofs are, collapsed and stuff like that. So there's a lot of danger and it's not very safe. Yeah. Even the train yards, I've had friends get killed by trains. Yeah, it's not a safe sport.
Oh, yeah, I can tell. So you've been doing this for a really long time. Do you still go out in the streets and do graffitis, or are you more focusing just doing art?
Well,
You can talk about it.
yeah. The yeah. No comment. I still get it in when I can get it in. I have a lot of problems in LA, so I can't really paint in Los Angeles because of the city officials.
So they all know you already.
Yeah, I mean, I'm all over Instagram, so it's pretty easy to find me. But when I travel, I do get out there and paint. It's fun, and I do get to sneak in a couple things here and there. It's fun.
Cool. Do you still get nervous when you go like do a street art, or you don't even get nervous anymore, or like scared?
Yeah, I think you just get like at one with it. Like you're in that mode where it's just like you don't care. And I don't think you don't care in a like arrogant or like negative way. You're confident about what you're doing. Like everyone has their own worlds. Like I don't paint on religious stuff or living stuff, and I paint on a lot of shit that looks like shit. So I don't care. I'm like, I know I'm subject to get busted. And, I don't ask for leniency, and I'm subject to get busted by the fullest extent of the law if they bust me. But it's hard to say what I'm doing wasn't better than what was there.
Yeah.
I know it's illegal, and I'm totally cool. If you arrest me, arrest me. But a lot of times it's a hard argument.
It's like you're famous now. Like a lot of people knows you.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of times I paint, and people have caught me that own the buildings, and they're like, "It's cool." They leave it up or take pieces of it.
So
I've had a guy come out and go, "You can paint that, but I want you to paint this." And he brought me some stuff to paint. It was pretty cool. He's pretty funny.
So now you can get away.
Yeah, he was in New Orleans. This guy brought out like it was after Katrina, and I was painting, and it was like old house that was flooded and destroyed and everything, and a school and all this stuff. And he was the caretaker, and he came out. And he was like, "Yo," and he caught me, and he's like, "Yo, don't run, don't run." And I'm like, "What's up?" And he's like, "It's cool. I just want to ask, can you do a couple things for me?" I'm like, "What?" And he brought me like a refrigerator door and a car door and all kinds of stuff.
Oh my God.
Just paint these for me. I was like, "Right on." So I painted it for him, and then he let me go around and paint a bunch of stuff.
That's cool. Do you know how many times you got arrested?
I've only had a few cases stick, but getting arrested or detained happens a lot, or it happened a lot. But when you go to court, it's kind of hard for them to prove sometimes.
It's like very similar to skateboarding. Like sometimes we just go to illegal places to skate.
Yeah.
But I never heard a skater got arrested.
Yeah. Well,
like, we'll get tickets, but that's it.
A lot of citations and stuff. Yeah. It's it depends. If it's private property or city property, it's all different things.
Yeah.
Where it gets different.
So graffiti, it's a very dangerous sport. How do you keep going? How do you keep doing it?
You learn a lot. You learn how the trains move and what to stay away from, the buckles and all these things and the tracks. You pay attention, you learn, and you know what's safe and not safe. So you become kind of an expert of these things. Like you start to know the city in and out. Like the underground tunnels, and the train tracks. The freeways. You know all this stuff. You learn it. You become an expert on it. So it becomes a little safer for you. And and people ask, why do we do it? We do it because, I do it because it's kind of like, I don't know any other way. It's my life. Like I started doing it so young in 1983 that I've done it every day of my life. So I've done it more than the majority of my life, I've done graffiti. Like that's the longest thing I've done in my life. Like I've done graffiti more than 3/4 of my life. I've drawn my name on a piece of paper every day, and it's just like becomes habit forming. And I do it like to know that I'm alive. Like I don't know, I'm really bad with time and dates, but graffiti is like a chronological calendar where I could look at something and be, oh, that piece was on opening day of the Dodgers and da 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 da. Like I'll know all these things from the pieces, So it's like I don't know any other way. It's like breathing to me, And then the way I socialize with people is with collaborations with other artists, and the way I talk to my crew is through graffiti. It's like a dialogue, Like someone might be in Atlanta painting, and I might be here painting, but we'll send pictures and feed off each other and stuff like that. So it's a way of life. It's just a way of life, just like skateboarding. It's like it's a way of life, and everything kind of revolves around that.
Yeah.
And I don't think I would know any other way of life, you know? So it's, I call it like a beautiful disease,
Yeah.
you know?
So you said you lost a few friends
Yeah.
while doing graffiti. How do you like overcome that and keep doing?
Well, it's a reminder, you know, like we lost some friends in the train yards, and it's a reminder to pay attention. It's dangerous. But we memorialize our friends all the time. You know, like you'll see, you might see a train that says next, which was a friend of mine that passed away. And we memorialize them with art. You know, that thing up there is a heavens, but that represents all the graffiti artists that have passed away. And that freeway sign up there. And we usually put pictures and peaceful. There's a guy up there, Triggs, that it's a 10-year anniversary of him passing away, and that's the photo of him up there. But there's pictures that rotate of fallen heroes, so to speak, up there. And we memorialize them through paint. And I write right in paradise instead of rest in paradise, right in paradise. Rest in paint, all these different things. So yeah.
Do you like breaking rules?
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone loves breaking rules.
It's part of your job.
Yeah, I think, as I get older, I'm more conscious of it, and I'm like, all right, maybe I don't do all the stuff I did when I was younger, but I think you can't have good without bad, and you can't, everything contradicting in juxtaposition of good and bad, yin and yang, all that kind of stuff. I believe in karma heavily. So I got to pay attention to what I do. I'm paying back. I do a ton of charity work. I've done a ton of vandalism, and I pay back with a ton of charity work, so I think I'm about even. I'm cool. I have good karma, So, yeah.
So like for us, skateboarding, like we go pretty much to the skate park almost every day and skate. But when we want to like film a video part, we go to the street and then we find a spot.
Yeah.
And then we go film a trick.
Yeah.
Is for you guys kind of similar?
Yeah, it's the pieces. Like we find a spot and we go do a piece. And like now it's getting to another level with all the rappelling, our crew, we have a guy named Ram and MSK that is rappelling, and he's like the king of rappelling. He's going around the world rappelling, and it's brought a whole another level to graffiti. It's a whole new world. Like, we used to see on movies, like people rappelling to graffiti, like Cirque 182. That was all fake, but now it's not. Now it's
all
real.
That's pretty cool. I want to see that. When you first started graffitiing, was your parents supportive or?
No. My parents, my dad hated it. And my mom lives in New Orleans. My dad lived out here. I quit going to school in like 7th grade. My mom was a teacher, and it was a big thing. And I had to come live with my dad because she was getting in trouble because I wasn't going to school and all this stuff. And my dad was a pretty tough dude and wanted me to, get good grades and be scholarly. And graffiti wasn't part of his plan, And he hated it. And I was out all night, and I was missing school, and I was getting in trouble, getting arrested, all this stuff. So he basically finally told me, it's either graffiti. Oh, he said, you don't have to stop doing graffiti, but you can't live here and do it. And he thought that would it. And I was like, all right, later. I packed my bags. What are you doing? So I'm out of here. And he's like, you think you're a man? I'm like, I guess so. We'll see. He goes, we'll see. And he said, good luck. He goes, make sure you're home every Friday for dinner. I want you to check in on you and see how everything's going. I'm like, all right, cool. And I left. And I never came back. And, I had a relationship with my parents the whole time. It wasn't like I was a runaway, but I wasn't like an outcast. I was like, visited them back and forth.
Friday night.
Yeah, it was just like I just left home earlier, And, we fought over the years and had a very crazy relationship because at USC, I went to USC for fine arts, and he wanted me to be a business major, and I switched my major to fine arts, and he was so mad and didn't talk to me and this and that, and he eventually had to come work for me for a while, and that was not we didn't do well together. And long story short, he passed away from cancer, but on his deathbed, we made up, and he was able to go to my first museum show and see it, and he was able to see me do a lot of great things that he really looked up to. And, he was like, man, and he's sat out here on that porch. Well, the porch that was before that porch that we just built. And he just like looked around and he goes, I get it. He goes, you did it right. You did a good thing, So yeah. I was knighted by the Medici family and I painted it in Michelangelo's studio. I'm the only person to paint in the studio in over 400 years, 500 years. And that was super cool. It was a real surreal experience painting in his studio,
Wow.
My daughters were a huge inspiration to me and changed me completely. Like, I didn't expect that, and that family life changed me incredibly, like, in a different person because, I was traveling around the world with third rail clothing and all that stuff, and I just stopped and I wanted to be a stay-home dad and be with my daughters. And my art changed. I walk around with a notebook and I just write ideas, and I have notebooks full of it. And I don't have time to paint it all, so I have more ideas than I'll ever be able to paint in my lifetime.
Wow.
Yeah, I just have to get as many as I can done.
Is there any art that you're like most proud of that you ever done?
I don't know what I'm most proud of. Painting in Michelangelo's studio. So I was knighted by the Medici family and I painted it in Michelangelo's studio. I'm the only person to paint in the studio in over 400 years, 500 years. And
Wow.
that was super cool. And it was like, every time I say it, I've said this in many interviews, I get tingly when I say it, and I just got tingly again. It was a real surreal experience painting in his studio,
Wow.
So that was really cool. And then, I've done a lot of really cool stuff, real cool projects. Like being a young kid painting for Playboy is a big deal, and painting for Michael Jackson was really cool.
Wow.
Painting for the Super
You got
Bowl.
to meet him?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. He was really cool. Like he came in and he caught me off guard because, he doesn't talk to people on the set. It was it was the Way You Make Me Feel video at the height of his, he was huge.
Yeah.
And he comes in, you're not allowed to talk to him. He doesn't talk to people. And if he talks to you, whatever. And I'm just painting, not paying attention.
So you're painting for a music video?
For his video. Yeah. So they had me design like 4 streets, and they wanted like a gang street, a graffiti street, a mixture street, and I don't know, an age street. And he was going to pick which one when he comes because he choreographs when he sees it.
Yeah.
Like on the spot. And he liked them all. So he picked from different parts of all of them. And they clear the set, and he starts to choreograph, and we hid in the rafters. And he's like, woo, he's dancing, and I'm laughing and like giggling. He's like, someone up there? And I'm hiding. And I got to watch him choreograph the whole video. It was crazy watching him on the spot. It's not like you would think like, oh, some dance coach says, go over here and jump on this car and do this and come down storyboard. Just none of that. It's just him doing his thing. And then after he gets it, he tells everyone else what to do. So looking back, it was amazing watching that, And he came to me, he's like, are you responsible for all this beautiful art? And I'm like, yeah. And we talked a little bit, and he left, and the whole set was like, he talked to you. I'm like, yeah, so? And they're like, he doesn't talk. You're the chosen one. I'm like, shut up. It was weird, but it was cool.
That's amazing. I mean, not a lot of people can say they talked to Michael Jackson, so that gotta be.
Yeah, he was super cool and normal. He's just like,
he had normal guy.
Just questions about graffiti. Loved it. It's like, it's all spray can, all of it. I'm like, yeah.
Who else? Who else you meet that was like really cool?
Oh man, I met so many cool people. But I think one of my favorite, I've painted with like a lot of, rock stars and stuff like that. Like Dave Navarro went to my high school, and I grew up with all these guys, and we'd be out painting when they're out putting up flyers, and we call it getting up.
Yep.
So I'd run into these guys in the middle of the night all the time before Guns N' Roses and Chili Peppers and all these bands were big bands. When they're bands on Sunset pulling up flyers and stuff,
So you met them.
You run into them, and you interact with them, you become friends. So that's all cool. But Aerosmith was really cool because I didn't know those guys or anything, and they called me, and they were like, "Hey, I can't say who, but there's a pop star that wanted to learn how to do graffiti." I'm like, "Nah, I'm not into it." And they wanted to pay me to do graffiti with them. I'm like, "I'm not doing it. I'm not feeling it." And Aerosmith heard about this, and they go, "Did you really turn down such and such?" I'm like, "Yep."
Wait, you're not gonna say their name?
No, I can't.
Now I wanna know.
Yeah, I'll tell you after. But and then I go, "Yeah," and they go, "You're our guy." I'm like, "All right, what are we doing?" They go, "We're gonna announce the world tour." And I'm like, "Cool." So I didn't really understand what they meant. I thought they wanted me to paint a mural saying "World Tour, let rock rule." Da da da. I'm like, "Cool." And they called, "Let's meet at this place at 9:00 at night or 10:00 at night or whatever." And I was like, why are we meeting at night downtown? It's weird. So I go to meet them. I said, yeah, what's up? And they're like, all right, let's go. You ready? I'm like, what do you mean? They go, what are you going to do? Like, you want to do it now? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, all right, well, where's the wall? What do you want to do? And they go, we don't know. This is your area. And I'm like, oh, you guys want to go bombing? And they go, yeah, they want to go bombing and announce the tour like illegally on the streets and stuff. And I'm like,
That's
oh
cool.
shit, that's
Right.
cool. But I'm like, this is
Get in
illegal.
trouble.
And they're like, yeah, no, we're fine. We're not getting arrested. So we went bombing, and I went bombing with Aerosmith, and it was cool. Joe Perry was super into it, super into it. He's like an artist. I think he did the Aerosmith logo. He designed it and everything. And so we went bombing. So we were painting Aerosmith
Like
pieces.
you guys like driving around
Yeah,
and like
and I have a
walls?
limo that's all bombed with graffiti, and he's in my limo. So we're driving around this limo that's bombed, and we're jumping out. We're doing all these Aerosmith pieces, and I'm doing these A's with wings on them, and Aerosmith, and he's loving it. And he's writing Joe Perry.
So
I'm
you're
like,
doing all like freestyle.
yeah, just everywhere, just illegal graffiti all over downtown. And he's like writing Joe Perry. I'm like, bro, you got to get a tag. And he's like, nah, it's fine. I'm like, no, we're in trouble. And next day, TMZ calls, and they're like, did you do this? And we're like, yeah, we did this and this and that. And so I'm like, you need a tag. So he calls me, and he went out like all week. He kept calling me. He's like, let's go again. And I'm like, all right, cool.
That's cool.
And then he's like, I want to do this big one. It's like, I'm going to bring Steven, and it's going to be like Aerosmith tour date, let rock rule. Da, 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 da. I'm like, that's like a block long. He's like, you can do it? I'm like, yeah, I can do it, but you got to bail me out of jail. And he's like, don't worry about it. And I'm like, okay, you'll see. So we went to the building, we started doing it, and sure enough, the cops come in. Here we go. And they went up to they go, oh, we're just announcing our tour. And the cops like, right on, and just drove off. And I was like, holy shit.
Way.
Yeah. So I finished the piece, and then
How long it took you guys to finish?
probably an hour. I was like a simple piece I did,
That was fast.
Fast, but not on a main street. Like it's kind of
Yeah.
crazy. And then so TMZ was talking about it, and then the detectives started calling, and they were trying to bust me, and they called the property owner to press charges, and he was like, well, I'm a big fan of Aerosmith, and I'm a big fan of Risk too, and I'll call him if I want my building painted, or for right now I'm going to leave it up. And he called me and he goes, hey man, this detective's really got a hard on for you. He's trying to bust you, and you should know, be careful. And we were able to get rid of some pieces that were going to get us in trouble, and then the rest we were able to get in touch with the owners and leave them up. It was cool.
That's
But that was really cool because Joe always wants to go paint a train. He's like, let's go paint the trains. I want to do Train Kept a Rolling, the Aerosmith song. So they're totally into it, and they invited me to their couple of their press conferences, and I would sit there, and I remember one Slash was on tour with them, I think. So it was Slash, me, and them, and we all had this canvas, and when it was done, we rolled it out, and we're all tagging on it, and Steven Tyler's sitting there, and he took like 20 tags. He's like, my tag sucks. I gotta get a better tag. But yeah, those guys are super into it. Super cool.
That's awesome. How did you transition from doing graffiti to like doing expensive art?
What happened was in like the late 80s, like 1989, I used to write with this guy named Slick, and he was from Hawaii, and he's like an incredible artist. He was like revolutionary character graffiti artist, did the characters, and he took them to another level. And I was really good with the letters. So these guys in New York that usually pick these guys to go have a world battle, picked us to represent the United States, and we won. So when we came back from that competition in England, a lot of collectors were collecting our work. So I'd have people calling me to buy my stuff, and then some galleries started calling. So I was just kind of thrown into that mix. And then I didn't really care about that or know much about it until later, when it became important to start like supporting myself. I was like, oh, I guess I'll sell a painting. And I just kind of was in the gallery scene from that point on.
So like it was something that you never thought about? It happened?
Yeah, I mean, I always set out to be in a gallery or museum, but it just kind of happened for me. I didn't have to like go knock on doors. It's just like I was very...
It was natural.
Natural until years later, though, because like when I wanted to sell the stuff, it's not as easy.
Yeah.
But now it's great. I had a clothing company called Third Rail Clothing. It was a streetwear brand, and I decided to stay home with my daughters and stop traveling around the world. When I sold that company, said I'll just be an artist now, And then that's when I really had to become a gallery artist, and that's a real different adjustment, you know. But it
And
was
how
cool.
do you like have ideas to like make a new art?
That's not the problem. It's just the time. You know, we have so many ideas. I have notebooks. I walk around with a notebook and I just write ideas, and I have notebooks full of it, and I don't have time to paint it all. So it's just whatever I'm doing. I'm like, oh, let me go this. This was a good idea. Let me try to paint that. So I have more ideas than I'll ever be able to paint in my lifetime.
Wow.
Yeah, I just have to get as many as I can done.
How long it takes you to like make an art? Like let's say a big piece. Like how long it takes you to do it
Like on the streets or on the gallery or what?
on the gallery?
In the gallery, it all depends. Like, you know, this room behind us is called the Vault, and they have stuff that sits there 3 weeks to 3 years. Like, I'll just look at it and be like, I don't really like it yet. It's not done. So it'll just sit there,
So you take a break and then
take
you
a
go
break,
back.
and then I'll pull it out. And then, like last month, I just focused on all that stuff, and I just pulled it out and I just kept working it. So I liked it. And I got some of the best stuff I think I've done ever out of that. And it's been 3 years in the making. And then sometimes I'll do a piece in like 3 hours, and it's great. I think I'm like, wow, that was cool. That was quick. I think it's just all just sometimes it clicks and sometimes it doesn't.
Is there ever something that you're like you make it and you're like, I hate it. I don't like it.
All the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what do you do with it? Do you just go over it?
Yeah. Go rework it. You know, like I don't really go over stuff. I rework it. And so you really can't really see what was underneath it. But I'm really big into that. Like my whole process is build and destroy and organize chaos and all these things. So I deconstruct stuff so much that what I start painting is never going to be the finished painting anyway, because I'm not really a traditional painter where I'm out to paint a tree or you know a fruit bowl or something like that, and you can see it progressing. You know, I'm not that kind of painter, so I have to build and destroy. Like I'll do the piece and tear it apart and put it back and tear it apart and put it back, tear it, until I have like an organized kind of chaos, well balanced piece
Got
in
it.
my eyes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Makes sense. How do you like price your art? Do you
The
do that or
galleries-
do you have somebody that
Yeah, the galleries pretty much do that. You know, galleries and managers and agents and all that stuff.
but do you like when you make an art, do you kind of like know how much it's gonna cost?
Yeah,
or-
I pretty much know about it. It's, you know, I could look at it and tell pretty much what it's going to be. You know, I know the ballpark price, you know, pretty close.
How much for an art?
It depends on size and medium and what, you know, like, they're always different, but like if it's a serigraph is different than a G clay, is different than original, it's different, you know, it goes on and on and on.
Think you get more famous, it gets more expensive, or
I
it
guess
doesn't
so.
change
I
that?
guess, you know, as time goes on, it definitely gets more expensive. You know, a lot of things are limited edition, so they come out at one price, and by the time they're done, they doubled or tripled or stuff like that. And you have a lot of collectors that manipulate the market. You know, like will buy everything of something, and then they dictate their own price. You know, the auction results are a thing. You know, like I've had pieces go for, you know, a couple $100,000 in auction, and you know, I've had things go for a lot more than I sold them for. You know.
What was your more like expensive art that you ever sold?
I think I sold published art auction results. I probably have like 270 grand, stuff like that.
Wow.
But private sales, I've done some big stuff. Like I've traded and done some, you know, few $1 million deals, like trading for other
my
people's art and
God.
my art back and forth to gallery owners. I traded a ancient antiquities collection. Some of the statues you see around here.
Yeah.
Some of the big bronzes and some pre-Columbian pieces that I have locked up and stuff like that. But I think that was like a $4 million trade. But that's multiple pieces. Though.
I'm in the wrong career. I gotta start doing art. Way more money in art than skateboarding. This is so cool. So how did your art change over the years?
I don't really know. Like, and I always answer the same thing, but I don't really know anymore. Like, my inspiration is everyday life, you know, just waking up, I guess. But my daughters were a huge inspiration to me and changed me completely. Like, you know, I didn't expect to have all these daughters. Well, I have a boy now as a couple of days, but I have 4 daughters and 1 boy as of 4 days ago or something. And I didn't expect that, and that family life changed me incredibly, like in a different person, because I was traveling around the world with third rail clothing and all that stuff, and I just stopped and I wanted to be a stay-home dad and be with my daughters, and my art changed, and everything happened kind of at the same time. As my daughters were growing up, my art was getting popular, and I was doing very well in the art scene and the gallery scene. So I was in a celebratory stage of life, so to speak, building this compound, all through graffiti, which was kind of crazy if you think about it. Um, we all have goals, but reaching them is another thing, and the butterflies came into play. My daughter, unfortunately, some neighbors down the street lost their daughter, and I did a piece of butterflies for them, and they represented so much to me because um, they're so powerful, and it's a new beginning and a transformation and all these things. But also, it's butterflies were like temporary and fragile, and graffiti is temporary, and they're always evolving, and we're always evolving our style, and they're real fiery like rock. But the deal, to seal the deal, my daughters love butterflies, and that was it. And I was like, seeing them get excited about it was everything I needed to know. So I just started going heavy on the butterflies. And I was like starting to feel weird about it because I was like so into butterflies. And then one of my friends goes, "Oh, dude, this is great." I'm like, "What's up?" And he's like an old punk rock dude. He goes, "From Anarch to Monarch." So I started doing Monarch butterflies. So they were a huge inspiration on me. And my artwork became very bright. And the color field washes, all because of them, I think, and me being in a celebratory stage of life. Because if you saw my artwork prior to that, there's a lot of dark stuff. Like my gallery stuff, a lot of mixed media stuff was cement, rock, steel, red, black, gray, white, a lot of dark stuff, and it was cool. I loved it. But with them, my stuff became very bright and, almost rainbowy, so to speak, But yeah, so they're a huge inspiration for me. My family is a huge inspiration for me. This compound is a huge inspiration for me. Not for the materialistic part of it, but for the creative part of it. One of the biggest compliments I've ever received was Forbes did an article on the compound, and they compared it to the Warhol Fun Factory.
Wow.
And they go, "It's the first time since the Fun Factory have we had another spot like that." And they call it the Fun Factory West. And because you have all these musicians and actors and MMA fighters and skateboarders and all these people coming here to be creative, and a lot of cool stuff happens out of it. So, keeping this place going and expanding and growing, and its legacy is inspirational. So I think everyday life and keep on keeping on. I say it all the time. People think it's so like simple, but it applies to everything. People are like, "Can you give me a motto for this?" I'm like, "Keep on keeping on." And they're like, I'm like, "Think about it. Like 50 years of hip hop, keep on keeping on." That's the mural I did for 50 years of hip hop. This thing, keep on keeping on, keep on keeping on. It's true. Keep on keeping on. Do what you do so much, and it'll work out. Do what you love. Don't listen to other people. Don't let them keep you down. If I listen to people tell me, "All right, if you want to be an artist, that's cool, but go paint with oils. You're only going to make money if you do that. I'm going to make money doing this." Keep on keeping on. I did what I loved till it was painful, till it hurt. I painted so I couldn't hold the spray can anymore. I fell asleep into walls. I've done all this stuff, to hone my sport art career. Keep on keeping on. So I guess all of those things wrapped up into one would be my inspiration.
Do you think after you had your first daughter, you slowed down a little?
No. So my first daughter is my stepdaughter, and she came to me, and I was dating this girl, and she's like, "I got a daughter." I'm like, "All right, cool, whatever." And I didn't really think I wanted to have kids or anything. I was like, "Well, check this out." And she brought her over, and we're in my kitchen at the time in my house in LA. And the Led Zeppelin song came on, and something like "Stole My Heart." She's only 3 years old, and she was 3 years old. And I was like, "I think this girl's stealing my heart," And like she slept on my chest that night. She threw up all over me. I had to clean her up and all this stuff. But anyway, I became a dad that night. And long story. I'm not with her anymore, but I've have 4 daughters with her, and we parent together, and it's been an amazing experience. And I just had my boy 4 days ago. But yeah, these and my daughter's been with me. They're all with me, um, and they've been with me the whole time. And it's it's crazy experience. But yes, it changes me, but not the way people think. People think it like slows you down or something like that. And it might have slowed the partying down a little bit just because I just didn't have time and this and that. But it doesn't. It catapulted me.
But when I say slow you down, like on taking risk, like being out there, like
Yeah.
getting shot or like,
Yeah, I definitely think about things now. Like I had nothing to lose, and I was like, I used to like to fight, and I used to like to do all these things, associated with graffiti, uh, and now it takes a lot to get me upset. A lot of people aren't worth the breath. Social media is a funny thing. These motherfuckers sit on social media and talk shit, but they're never gonna say it to you. And it's like, am I gonna sit there and like write back to them and like start fucking fighting on social media? Nope. So I don't know. You learn to like be at peace with stuff, and yeah. So I think in that sense, it might have changed me because, if I see a spot that's clearly, I'm going to be in a clearly bad situation and might get killed, and another spot right here where I'm not, I'm probably going to go over there. But when I was younger, I might have went over there just to do it.
Yep.
But now I'm like, yeah, I'm just go over here. The path of least resistance sometimes is.
So now if your kids, once you start graffiti, are you going to support?
Yeah, of course. They did graffiti when they were very young. My daughter's first tag was at the MoCA Museum. She tagged on the wall. I was like, no! And I was like, kind of cool. But, they've since stopped. They just grew out of it. And that's cool. I would love nothing more than them to be artists.
They'll follow the career?
I don't, my second to oldest daughter just started 2 weeks ago working with me full time in the clerical capacity with cataloging and all this stuff with the galleries, and she's integral part with coordinating my shows and stuff with the gallery. So that's so cool to me. And if I could have a family business, that would be my ultimate dream. But I'll never push them. They have different aspirations, and I'll push them to whatever they want to do. They've all been artists when they were younger, but they kind of grew out of it.
Yeah.
So Zeppelin is the boy that we just had 4 days ago, and we'll see what happens with him. Hopefully he'll stick around and we'll go paint trains together. We'll see. But I'll never push them. I'll push them whatever they want to do, but I'm never going to tell them, you got to do graffiti. Yeah.
Cool. So nowadays that you're like, you already got it all. You have a really cool house, a really cool music studio, art studio. Like, what are you looking forward for the future?
I don't know. I didn't do all this to have all this. I did all this kind of out of necessity. Like, I had to have a place to paint, so I wanted to build a cool studio. Then I had to have a workshop to build the mixed media stuff, so I built it cool. And I build as I go. And then I ran out of space, and I was fortunate enough to be able to buy the house next door, knock that down, and then we need to build a print shop, and then a frame shop, and then all these things. And then, we have our own off-site. We have another gallery and another warehouse. But these are all things that we needed and kind of grew naturally with us, and we were able to make them cool. So we didn't set out to have all this cool stuff, but I love it all. But yeah, what's next? I don't really know. You don't
plan it.
I don't plan I think life's like a hell of a ride, and I think that if you plan stuff, you kind of know the end of the ride, you know? And I just love the ride. I just want to keep going. I'm fortunate enough to be able to pick and choose my projects. So as long as I have so many cool projects out there that I could pick and I could just keep doing what I want, it's cool. It's like that old saying, like, if you do what you love, you never work a day in your life kind of thing. Like exactly. People think, my family, they think I work my ass off. They think it's crazy because I work 24/7, but I love it.
So it doesn't feel like work.
I get tired. Like I fall asleep like in bed drawing with the pencil and stuff, and I'm exhausted, and, but I love it. Like yesterday we shot all day and I had 2 events to go to last night until very late and woke up very early. And yeah, it's taxing, but it's like, it could be a lot worse, man. I could be out there like doing stuff that, I did construction when I was younger and that was not fun,
Exactly.
Or
Or like just sitting in the office all day, it'll be
something like that. Yeah.
so boring.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're lucky to be able to travel and just do what we
100%.
love. Awesome. Thanks for everything. It was amazing. And I love this place. The energy here is just amazing.
Right on. Thanks for having me. It's been fun.
This is the last episode of the season. And if you guys want to watch more, follow us on social or YouTube.
I verbally remember saying, when I get older, I'm going to do that.
Working with wildlife, it's in my blood.
Risking is everything. Like, I'll take that risk every time.
And winning that first World Cup was like, this is what I'm gonna do.
As soon as I'm out surfing, I feel like I'm just such a better person.
A highline is very representative of life itself.
I just want to be historic. I want to pave my path.
By the time I was 21, I had made $5 million from online poker.
The awareness of like where your body is in space, there's something normal about that to me.
I do it because I don't know any other way. It's my life.